Any football fans, do you know who was one of the greatest wide receivers that ever lived and still alive? Jerry Rice. Right. Do you think he was good by accident? I mean, yes, he was born that way. He was born with specific skills. He was born with reflexes. He was born with good hands. But do you know how hard the man worked? It said in the off season when he wasn't playing football, every day he worked out 6 days a week, doing things like this in his house. He had a 5-mile hilly track. And so every day he ran 5 miles on this hilly track. And when he got done doing 5 miles, he immediately did 10 40-meter wind sprints up the biggest hill on the course. When he was done, up the steepest hill. And then he went and did 1,000 sit-ups every day. Whew. That's in the off season. It said that some other people from his team were like, I want to go see what this workout's like. I want to try this and do it with them. And most of them could not finish it without puking. Even in practice during the season, the quarterback's throwing to the wide receivers and they're jogging because it's just practice. And when they catch the ball, the receivers would jog back to the quarterback and they would start again. But no matter where they were on the practice field, when Jerry Rice caught a pass from his quarterback, he would immediately turn and sprint to the end zone and then sprint back to his quarterback and do it all over again. He was not the way he was by accident. He had a routine, he had a regimen, he had a practice schedule. For your music types, there was a Polish pianist. Now I would butcher this name. His name was Ignacy John Paderewski. We're just going to say that's how you say it. His thing was scales, and if you're a musician, you know everybody practices scales. Now, I must not be a musician because on my guitar I don't practice scales. But if you're a really good guitarist, you practice scales all the time because then it makes your fingers be able to do what you're able to do. Well, pianists, same thing. There are 12 different half tones and you can practice a scale on each one. And so every day this guy, and all the way up and all the way back down, over and over and over and over and over again is what he did. Because it gives you the ability to move through the most difficult pieces with speed and accuracy because your fingers already know how to do every scale like this. Now his government, in a time of great need, because not everybody was well off, asked him if he could play concerts to raise money for the people that needed it. And he said, I can do that, you can contract me, but I have one condition. It can't take away from my time every day that I play scales. He said, I need 3 hours every day just to play scales. Anything else you want me to do has to come after those 3 hours that I practice scales. 3 hours. And so the government said, well, why? And you know what he said? He said, if I skip 1 day of scales when I play a concert, I notice. He said, if I skip 2 days of scales, my coach will notice. He said, if I skip 3 days, the whole world will notice. That's what it took, what kind of practice regimen for him to perform the way he wanted to perform. That's pretty astounding. Most of the truly gifted people in the world have that kind of work ethic along with their natural gifts. But they have to decide what's important to them. They have to decide where they want to spend their time so that they can do what they want to do. So I ask you this, for all of us, what kind of practice routine, what kind of schedule do we need to achieve success, to be productive, to feel satisfied and fulfilled, to become part of the solution and rather part of the problem? What do we need? Well, as I've been talking about voices from the past, people from the Bible that you can get advice from. Talked about it may seem silly, but you can sit down every morning and you can spend time with King David when you read his stories. And you can learn about King David. And you can even, if you're good at it, you can have conversations with King David and ask him questions, and you can learn it. All the people in the Bible you can spend time with, they can be your divine mentor, so to speak. Well, this week we're going to talk about Martha and Mary, a familiar story in the New Testament. It's going to be in Luke chapter 10. And Martha and Mary are voices from the past. If you want to use one of the Pew Bibles, I believe it's page 62 in the New Testament part, more towards the end. But we're going to read about Martha and Mary. It's in Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. Martha and Mary. Now as they went on their way, he entered a certain village, where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. So she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her." And you can keep that open if when I refer to that. Martha and Mary. So, if I want to treat this like their voices from the past, and I can talk with them, I can learn with them, and I can ask them questions. So I sit down and I ask myself this week, what questions can I ask Martha and Mary? If you were there, and you could talk to them, and you saw what was going on, and you saw Martha at the feet of Jesus, or Mary at the feet of Jesus, and you saw Martha being busy doing all this stuff. She's the host of the party, going around doing everything. And then you saw Mary, you can picture an innocent little, that's why we wanted to maybe name one of our children Mary, and that's what I picture. I picture a sweet little girl that does whatever you say and just sits at the feet of Jesus. I don't know why, probably because I read that story. So what would you ask Martha? I would ask her, "Martha, why did you do so much? Why were you doing all these things?" Is it obligation? Do you feel like that's what you're supposed to do when somebody's at your house? Is it just protocol? Well, you got to have a meal, you got to have it cleaned and ready to go, you got to have a basin to wash people's feet, you got to have this. Is that just what you do? Is it because you just wanted to throw the best party ever? That's what I would ask her. And I would say, who was it for? Why did you do all those things? Who was it for? Was it for others? Was it for Jesus? Was it for yourself? Because we see how Jesus answered. We don't need all these things. Mary has chosen what's important. Was it for others? So here we are. She's doing a bunch of things that no one at her party seems to care about. That would tell you that you don't need to do it all, right? But I would ask her, why? Why are you doing these things? You don't just assume. You don't do that in life. You don't do that with me. I don't do that with you. Why? And then I would ask Mary, because I want to know about Mary. Why didn't you help your sister? Certainly, we read this story and we know the answers, but in real life, we wouldn't be like, well, somebody's doing all the stuff and somebody's just sitting there. We would probably think a little bit like Martha, and we'd be like, Mary, what's going on? Why aren't you helping your sister? Are you lazy? Do you think it's not your job because it's not your house? Do you think this stuff is just not needed and you don't care about it? I'm pretty sure she would have probably answered, I didn't even notice. I wasn't paying attention to that. I didn't even think one word of it. Of course I would help my sister if she needed help. But I just didn't even notice. And then I would ask her, so why did you just sit at the feet of Jesus? This great teacher, this great person, why did you just sit at his feet? Are you lazy? I can only imagine she would answer that she didn't want to miss a minute of the time that Jesus was in her house. She didn't want to miss a second of what he had to say, of what he had to do. Her actions showed that at that moment, nothing else in the world mattered other than sitting and taking it all in. Can you imagine the person in the world you most want to meet, the person you most want to admire, if they were in your presence, how you would act? And then I could ask you questions about it. Why did you act the way you did? Some people are like, whatever. Maybe she was going to be like that, so maybe she just sat at the feet and said, I don't want to miss a second. But for me, talking with Martha and talking with Mary this last week, those are the questions I would come up with. Maybe you would come up with different questions. And then if you read the story over and over again, I don't want to say you make up answers for them, but you can have that conversation. Those are good questions to ask. Why did you behave that way? See, Martha, if you had to list one word, was distracted. She was serving people, right? But not effectively. She was anxious. She was troubled about many things, but there were things that really did not matter to everyone else. She threw too big a party for the occasion when simple hospitality would do. See, Martha taught me something about serving people and about sacrifice. Serving and sacrifice should be born out of need, not obligation, not protocol, not the desire to be recognized for how well you served. It should be based on what is needed for the situation. If there's a need that arises, then you can serve people. Then you can sacrifice for people. But if you sacrifice and serve where it's not needed, are you really sacrificing and serving? Well, not effectively. Martha's word was distracted. Now Mary, I have a word for her, and I love it. Mary was devoted. Mary was devoted. You know what devoted means? Well, to be devoted to something kind of means that nothing else can take its place. If it's a person, if it's a thing, if you're devoted to it, nothing else can step in and do that. Mary was definitely devoted. Mary had one thing that she was focusing on, the thing that no one could take from her. No one could pry out of her fingers. It was Jesus. She just wanted to sit at his feet and take it all in. She taught me about devotion. See, that devotion for her was her practice. That was her workout regimen. That was her scales that she played. She sat at the feet of Jesus. That's the only thing that mattered. She said, I don't know how long he's going to be here, but while he's here, I'm going to get as much as I can. I'm going to do as much work. I'm going to put in everything I can do to take it all in to learn from him. That was her devotion. That was her workout. What Mary had chosen, her decision to cultivate her relationship with Jesus above everything else in life, years and days and whatever could never be taken from her. She got that time with Jesus. It could never then be taken from her. Not for the rest of her life, not for eternity. That's a big word, not for eternity. That's the kind of thing that she was devoted to, that it would help her for eternity. See, Mary taught me this discipline, if you will. I know maybe you think that's a bad word, discipline. Daily devotions. And when I hear that word, I'm like, ew. Like, just using a blanket word, and you're like, yeah, every day I get up and I do my daily devotions. And if you didn't grow up in the church, you're like, well, what is that? That sounds like a weird word that I've never heard of. But if instead of thinking about it as this obligation that you're supposed to do every day when you know Jesus, think about the word devotion and what it means, about how you want something and that's your one thing and no one else can take it from you. Your daily devotions. Then it's like being devoted to something every day. That sounds a little better to me than saying I'm going to do my daily devotions. Just because I hate buzzwords, I hate words that everyone else uses. So to achieve to success, this is in my opinion, to be productive, to feel satisfied and fulfilled, to become part of the solution rather than part of the problems in the world, what do we need? I would tell you one thing that we need is daily devotions, to be devoted to the one thing that Mary was devoted to. Sounds kind of dramatic, right? If you want to make any success in your life, then you have to have daily devotions. Coming out of my mouth, I'm like, that does sound pretty dramatic. Well, I don't know. It worked for Mary. Do you agree that sometimes you have needs that you're not even aware of? We just miss it. You can call them unconscious needs if you want. I know an important one, like breathing. Do you wake up every day and you're like, man, I hope I breathe today? The AMA and all the medical doctors said it's pretty important to breathe, so I'm going to focus on that today. No, you don't do that. It's an unconscious need, but it's there. You can disagree with doctors, but if you don't breathe, you got a problem. That's an unconscious need. Food and water, they're pretty high up there. Even if you don't wake up. Now, I wake up and think that. I think, oh gosh, what am I going to eat for lunch? If I've got like 2 hours, I better plan it out. But not everybody does that because it's just a need that you have, whether you know it, whether you agree with it, whether you believe it. I think there's a need to follow the rules of gravity. I mean, I can jump off my house if I want, but it's probably not going to go well. You have unconscious needs. You can argue all you want, but there are some needs. There's a beautiful psalm, and again, this is another thing that I've heard so many times that I almost roll my eyes. I'm like, this sounds a bit dramatic as well. Because if you haven't noticed, I'm not a very dramatic person. I'm not one of the, how people say when you look to date someone, you have these, well, I'm not going to settle for this. Like, I need this kind of person. The only one on my list was, I need low maintenance. So if you're wondering if Erin is low maintenance, she is. Because any more than that, not surviving here. There'd be lots of eye rolls, lots of whatever. Couldn't handle that. But, at the sake of sounding overly dramatic, Psalm 42 verses 1 and 2 says this, As a deer longs for flowing streams, so my soul longs for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and behold the face of God? That's Psalm 42, 1 and 2. I mean, there's just words that I don't use there. As the deer longs, sometimes I use the word pants, as the deer pants for the flowing water streams, so my soul longs for you. But in whatever translation I looked up, I like that they used the word soul. As the deer longs for the water stream, so my soul longs after God. Because here's what I want to tell you. Does a deer wake up in the morning, I know they don't have conscious thought like us, and think, man, the doctor told me water is really important. I better go look for a stream. No, the deer just knows that, and throughout the day makes its way towards a place that has flowing water. It's an unconscious need, if you will. Our souls are like that for God. They're the same way. Your soul was created to long for God. Even if you don't believe it. You don't believe in God? You don't believe your soul longs for God? It doesn't matter if He created you that way. It's true. We were born that way. See, it's an unconscious need. He created our souls to long for one thing. You want to know what our problem is? Getting our minds to believe that and to chase after it. Because our souls can long after Him all we want. But if we don't take actions to make that happen, then it's not going to happen. So we have to convince ourselves that's what we need, and that God's the only one that can satisfy our souls deep down. There's lots of things that can make us happy, and we can look for, and we can try, but only God will satisfy our souls deep down. It's like a practice, a habit, a joy. If you make your practice or your habit, your daily devotions, a joy, you're satisfying your longing. Not a burden, not, well, you became a Christian and they said you're supposed to read your Bible and have daily devotions every day. Remember, I'm not overly dramatic. I'm just saying that your soul really needs it more than food, more than air. Think about that. More than water. Your soul needs God. Even if you don't believe it, it does. It's difficult for a lot of us. I stand up here professionally, getting paid to tell you about God and to tell you about Jesus fully admitting that sometimes it feels like a chore and that it's hard to make myself grasp that it's that important, that it's more important than water or air. I can say that, but it's hard to live like that. I will tell you it's true. If I miss some of my God time one day, I notice. I miss it more, other people start to notice. It's just true. I can explain all these things about these books you should read, these books you shouldn't, these things you should watch or whatever, but if I don't get my time in, I'm going to notice. So I have a tip. Sound kind of hard? Well, sometimes I open the Bible and some of this stuff seems boring, and whatever it is, and I know it's important, but I don't want to do that. I like God and I like church, but I'm just not into it that much. How can I get a habit, just a little discipline? How can I get something that I do more often? Well, my tip is to link it to something you enjoy. Okay? Some people really like coffee. I think a lot of people really like coffee. So there are some people that make their goal to get up in the morning, get their favorite coffee, sit in their favorite chair, maybe get a donut if you like a donut, maybe sit on your front porch if that's what you like, and get your Bible and spend a little bit of time with God. Maybe you're not a morning person. Maybe your brain works better later in the day. Maybe it's in the evenings with hot tea, sitting under a cozy lamp, in your favorite slippers with your Bible. I don't know what yours is. But I'm saying, if you link it with something that you like, the whole experience is going to be something that you like. Maybe you just, right now, you're like, wow, that's brilliant. I've been doing it wrong all these years. I'm not telling you what you're doing is wrong. I'm just saying, if you link things with something you enjoy, then you're going to enjoy the whole thing. Now, this is going to sound really weird, because you've heard me sit up here and preach about how much I love Buffalo Wild Wings and things like that. But I have a new habit in the last year, maybe, at least once a week. I'm almost embarrassed. I go to Panera. Now let me tell you, when I'm sitting at Panera, the first thing I think when a family brings in their small children is, why are you bringing them here? There's no good food. I do think that. I know it's not true. I know there's healthy food, but I'm thinking, why would you bring a kid here? They're not like, take me to Panera. I've never heard a kid say that. Claire likes to go, but she likes to read. See, but what 10-year-old is like, Mom, you know what I really want for lunch today? I want Panera. I've never heard that. So I feel sorry for these children. But I have a new habit. I like to go to Panera. Well, number one, I'm getting older. I realize I have to eat a little bit healthier, or I'm not going to last as long. And so at least once a week, because I'm a routine, I get Caesar salad, chicken noodles, and the little French baguette. That's my favorite part. Because with butter, it's probably the most unhealthiest. Oh, and I do get extra dressing for my salad because it doesn't have it. But that's not the point. I'm at Panera, okay? So I should get a gold star for that. But here's the weird thing. In Panera, sitting at a table, sometimes with my headphones listening to music, sometimes doing other things, I find my spot. I find my zone. For some reason, I can get more done sitting at a little table by myself at Panera than I can 5 hours sitting in my office. I can do it in an hour and a half at Panera. I like all the noise and the busyness around me, and that it has nothing to do with me. It's just like this white noise around me. If you had asked me 5 years ago if that was my spot, I would have called you crazy. Would have had you committed. But that's my spot. This week I went twice. In case you're wondering where we get our money, I do get the cheapest thing on the menu. It's the little half and half. Literally, it's only like $1.55, and then I can leave a $3 tip because I'm sitting there for like 3 hours. So I feel a little bit bad. And I know the little old man that comes to my table and takes my food, even though I can take it up myself, and I tell him that every time. And I enjoy that. I'm not even a people person. But I like him. There's a certain lady that works, a young girl that works behind the counter, that when she gets my food ready, she already knows that I need extra dressing, and it's there waiting for me. And every time the first time I walked up, because like 3 times I had asked for extra dressing, and then I walked up and I was like, and can I have? And I was like, oh, it's already there. I gave her a tip once personally. And so she laughs and smiles every time I go up to the counter to get my food, because I'm like, thank you so much. But it's my little sweet spot, because I don't like coffee. I don't like tea. I don't like my cozy little lamp. I don't really think Buffalo Wild Wings would be the spot to convene with my divine mentors. There's nothing wrong with it, I just can't really picture that. So Panera is my spot. Go ahead, tell all your friends, it's fine. I see lots of people there all the time. You can make your spot. It can be whatever you want. Just so that there's things that it's all wrapped into one. And then you may be like, well, maybe at the beginning you're like, I'm not really digging this Bible that much, but I love my French baguette, and I love my salad, and I love the little guy who takes my food away. And then maybe eventually you associate the whole thing together. And you're like, that's my thing. That's my habit. That's my routine. That's what I'm devoted to. The week that I'm busy and I can't go, I miss it. That's what kind of thing you need if you want to make this a good experience. Not, well, if I don't read my Bible today, it's all going to go to crap. That's not a good attitude, right? It's more like, no, don't take my Panera from me. That's the one time this week that I'm going to get. Now, you probably need something more than once a week, but that's a start. Got to start somewhere to create that positive experience. I know it's hard. I know there's people that are like, yeah, I believe in God. I believe Jesus died for my sins. I go to church and that's good. I'm not knocking anybody wherever they're at. My job is just to always push you this much further. Because if you don't believe that this thing can help you, I got news for you. It can make a difference. I'm an average, short, half uncoordinated white dude that only has certain things going for me. And this makes me so much more. It just does. I can't explain it. It's not a formula. It's not a you do this and then you get that. It's a you do this and then all of a sudden I'm a little bit happier, a little bit less grumpy, a little bit more effective in life. I just am. And you can be too. It's not the first time you open up, you're going to be like, I'm so much better, zippity-doo-dah, this is a great day. That's not how it works. It's the longing in your soul that you have for it. That eventually, if you feed your soul, everything else is going to go better. It's Panera, it's coffee, it's tea, it's whatever you like. See, we must, as Mary did, choose one thing that will affect absolutely everything else in our lives. You have to find them. I don't know what yours is. Certainly I can help you if you have questions and you want to make your thing. When I miss my devotions one day, I don't notice. When I miss them 2 days, maybe my wife and kids will notice. When I miss them 3 days, I feel like the world notices. I start doing things that's just not me. Learn from Mary. Find your one thing.
Looking for the shade where the trees have died. Trying to find my way to the peace inside. Until I'm home. Oh, 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 oh. Until I'm home. Oh, 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 oh. walking down this road till I'm home.
Please, take the things that bring hurt, grief. They told me greed won't bring worth. I heard that, never learned that. Foolish of me not to turn back. It's easy cause you see the real